Hey everyone, my name is Allie and welcome to my channel. So since 2019 is over, I really wanted to do one last video about the end of the year and talking about some of my goals for 2020 and some of the things that I would like to read, some of the things I would like to create for YouTube, and also kind of reflecting a little bit on 2019. So 2019 has been my best reading year so far. I've read, I want to say 76 books. I'll put my Goodreads reading challenge from 2019 right here, and you guys can see it. I'll scroll through it a little bit, but I read 76 books, and that is the most books that I've ever read in any year ever, and I'm super proud of myself. My goal starting off for 2019 was only 20 books. I was really gonna take it easy this year and not really pressure myself, and I never really felt pressured to get to 76, but I just kind of started off the year being like, I really want to focus on my writing, I really want to progress in that, and I have already read over 100 books in the past 2 years, so I don't really feel like I need to extend too much energy into reading. But then the booktube games happened in February. I ended up reading 20 books. I smashed my Goodreads goal to pieces like 2 months into the year, and I just figured why not go and just really do this thing. So I ended up putting my goal up to 50, and I figured, hey, maybe I'll read 50 books this year. You know, by this point all I need to read is like 30 or so books and I'll be good. And then I ended up reading 76, and I'm still shocked by that number. That number doesn't feel real. In 2018 I think I read about 64 books, so I went about, what, 12 books over my 2018 goal, and it's just mind-boggling that I was able to read so many books this year, or I guess in 2019. But looking back on the things that I read in 2019, there are some things that I want to do differently in 2020. Something I really liked about my reading in 2019 was that even though I did read a lot of books, I was also able to really focus on my writing as well. I even did NaNoWriMo for the first time. Like, I actually stuck to it the entire month. I didn't finish it and I didn't complete, like I didn't win NaNoWriMo, but I was able to write over 30,000 words in that month, and that was really special to me, and I was very proud of myself. And I was able to spend 2019 focusing more on my writing. So that's really fun, and I have a project that I'm working on which is so exciting, and I can't wait for people to read it. I really hope that people get to read it. And I don't know, I'm in love with it. It's like literally one of my favorite things I've ever written, and I'm very passionate about it, so yeah. Here's hoping to that. But going back to reading, I really noticed that in 2019 I didn't really focus a lot on the things that I love. I just kind of read books, which isn't really what I want to do. I want to read books that I'm really passionate about and read from genres that I'm passionate about. So even though I did go out of my comfort zone a little bit in 2019, I didn't really focus on books that I'm super excited about, if that makes any sense. Like, my favorite genre is fantasy, and I didn't really read very many fantasy books in 2019, and that was really disappointing. So I'm really hoping that this year I can focus a little bit more on fantasy books, and also historical fiction, which is another of my favorite genres. I did read a bit of historical fiction in 2019. I mean, if you saw my favorites video, you would see that I did put a couple of historical fiction books on that list, like Stella Fortuna and Daisy Jones and the Six. But I would like to explore and find more historical fiction and fantasy. I feel like those are like my two absolute favorite genres. Like, I just love them so much. I'm very passionate about them. If you guys have any recommendations on any of those genres, then let me know. I also really want to get into science fiction in 2020, and that's very scary for me and a little intimidating, mainly because I've never really read a science fiction book or series that I've really loved. I did read one, and it was by Beth Revis, and it was Across the Universe. I loved that book coming out of high school. That book, that series, was so good for me. I loved it so much. And I was really into dystopian back in the day, which is kind of like a subset genre of science fiction, but I've never really been able to get into the genre as a whole. I have bought a couple of science fiction books, and I've never really been into them or like read them and been like, oh, this is exciting, like this is fun. It's always been like, I hate this. And I'm wondering if it's mainly because I don't like science. Like, I feel like science is, as like a subject in school, is evil. I just hate science. I love science as a concept, and I'm very pro science, but I am not pro me ingesting science. I am very anti me ingesting science. And I think that might be a reason why I don't like the genre all that much. Really, the only science fiction that I consume is Star Wars. And you're probably thinking that's not super sci-fi. It's definitely more like a fantasy in space. But I think that's what I like from my science fiction, is more of a fantasy in space rather than a technological, or like, you know what I mean, like a very fundamental science fiction. I don't like that. I don't want that. I want fantasy in space, because I love space and I love fantasy, but I don't like sci-fi. So I really want to find some sci-fis that are like similar to Star Wars in the idea of it being less about the actual factual science and more about the fantastical elements of science and space and stuff like that. So that's definitely a genre that I want to look into. I have a couple of books that I want to read, like Heart of Iron is one of them. Also, there's another book, I want to say it's that Jane Eyre retelling. I can't remember what it's called. Oh, Brightly Burning by Alexa Dunn. I also want to read that book. And then I also have my Star Wars books in the background that I want to read, and I've always loved Star Wars books. Star Wars books have been a staple in my reading life for years. Since I was a kid, I had so many Star Wars books as a kid, and I definitely want to get into more of like the new like Disney canon stuff, which is going to be very intriguing. I've only read Leia, Princess of Alderaan, and Bloodline, both by Claudia Gray. So far she's my favorite Star Wars writer of like the moment, but I have a couple up there, so I'm really excited about that as well. Speaking of stepping outside my box, in 2019 I was able to read so many more adult books. I was so proud of myself because I've always said, if you've watched my videos for years, or however long I've been doing BookTube, I feel like I've been doing BookTube for years, but I think it's only been at least like maybe 2.5 years. But if you've been like watching my videos, I've always said that I really don't like adult fiction and that I'm intimidated by it and I can't read it. But this year I've really proved myself wrong. And that's not to say that I don't like young adult anymore. I'm still primarily a young adult reader, and I haven't been disillusioned by young adult yet. I don't like adult fiction more than young adult fiction. I prefer young adult, and I feel like I've noticed a lot of people who start to read adult are like, I'm gonna move on from young adult is boring, whatever. And I think that that's fine, and that's a perfectly fine opinion to have, but that's not me. Like, I feel like as someone who wants to write young adult fiction, I still need to read young adult fiction and I still need to enjoy it. And I definitely do enjoy it still, which is so much fun and so relieving to me, because I always worried that as I grew up I would kind of grow out of young adult fiction, but I haven't, so that's super exciting. But I have enjoyed the adult fiction that I've read this year. I actually started off 2019, I keep saying this year, I actually started off 2019 reading adult fiction, mainly adult romance, which I have, you know, stepped my little toes in, and it's been interesting. I've liked all of the romance books that I've read. There hasn't been a romance book that I've read that I disliked, but I don't really know if it's the genre for me, mainly because I'm not a super romantic person. not really into romance, not really into dating, not really into that kind of stuff. So they're only fun in little bits and pieces. So I kind of like, I'll read a romance book, but then I need to take a break. And then I'll read a romance book, I need to take a break. So I've enjoyed all of them. They've all been fun. I've read a lot of Christina Lauren now, and they're such a great writing duo. I love their books so much. I feel like they're definitely my favorite. And then I've read a couple of other stuff from other people, and I've really liked all of them, really. And I definitely want to read some more this year. I think I have 2 books for my Book of the Month subscription that are romance, so I definitely have some for my TBR, but overall, I don't really know how much I'm gonna get into that genre. What I'm mainly interested in is adult literature that's not romance, so I definitely want to kind of try to find some books that are similar to some of the other adult books that I've read in 2019, but better. Because all of the non-romance books that I read were around the 3-star, 2 to 3 star mark, and I want to find some that are better. I read Sweet Bitter, I read The Vacationers, there were a couple other books that I read that I was just meh about. Sweet Bitter actually was on my least favorite books of the year because it was just bad. But yeah, I definitely want to find some books similar to that, like a sort of like literary fiction sort of deal, or just like, I guess, contemporary without being romance, that are good. I don't know if those exist. If you have any recommendations, as always, let me know. But I just really want to find some books that are adult, that I can enjoy, that I can be like, hey, look at these adult books. I am an adult, but I haven't really found those yet. I'm still looking. So in my journal, I did write down some 2020 goals, and the first one is read more adult books, as I said. The second one is join more readathons. I'm a very big mood reader, but I feel like in 2019 I felt a little bit left out because I never joined any readathons. So in 2020, I want to join some readathons. I'm gonna try to keep my eyes out for them and join them and really stick to them and figure it out, because I feel like I kind of self-isolated within the community a little bit because I haven't joined in on these readathons, and they seem like such a good way to build community, and I just haven't been doing that, you know? And that's my fault because I am such an isolated person. I feel like I don't belong to I guess like a booktube clique, which is like, I'm not someone who's like offended by cliques or anything. Like, I read the clique. I understand friend groups, but I'm just like not part of like a friend group within the booktube community. I feel like everybody else is. I am just personally not. And it's a little weird. It's a little like, I feel like I'm on the fringes of the booktube community, so I'm hoping that joining readathons will kind of insert myself into the community more. The next goal is to read more Shakespeare, and that is something that I've been trying to figure out how to do, because I want to do it in a way that includes everybody else. And I'm thinking, instead of doing my monthly readathon, or read along, I don't know what that's called, like book club, and I figured I would do something where maybe we take a month or 2 weeks or whatever, and we read as many Shakespeare plays as we want, or we read as many like Shakespeare inspired books as we want, or whatever, and we can talk about it on Twitter and maybe on Instagram and maybe on YouTube, I don't know, but I have so many Shakespeare plays up on this shelf that you can't see, and so many of them that I haven't read, and so many of them that I want to read. So maybe we can do that in the summer. That might be a fun thing, kind of like a Shakespeare in the Park, but on YouTube, and that might be fun. I don't know, you know, I'll figure it out. Maybe we can do like 2 or 3 plays and read them together. That'd be really fun. The next one is film more engaging content, which also kind of, I guess, ties into all of this. By engaging content, I mean videos where people want to engage with it. They want to comment on it or talk to me about them. Because I feel like sometimes I'll post videos and there'll be like 2 comments, and that's all the comments that it'll get, which is fine, and I really appreciate all those comments, and I love every single comment I get. I try to reply to every single one of them, but I just feel like it's not totally reflective of my following count, I guess. So I'm trying to figure out how to make content that makes people want to talk about it. You know what I mean? Like in the comments, like not talk about it anywhere else, but just in the comment section, if that makes sense. And I, you know, of course I watch everyone else's videos, and I notice how many comments that they have compared to their view count, compared to their subscriber count, and I feel like I'm really, really behind. And I think that that's my fault, mainly because I feel like maybe sometimes my content isn't as engaging as I hope it's going to be. And it's really hard for me to gauge what people want and what people find engaging, because what I find engaging is completely different than what other people find engaging. So I really need to figure out what do people want from me? What do people want to see from me? And kind of create that content, you know, find that middle ground of what other people want and what I want. And I feel like I need to do some more like challenging videos for myself, kind of like what I'm going to do with reading the oldest books on my TBR, or, you know, having these other ideas of like reading this kind of book or reading this, you know, whatever. So hopefully I can do more of that kind of content in 2020, because I do like making it and I would like to put it on my channel. So I definitely want to kind of revamp my content this year. The next one is make more friends. I kind of talked about that before, but I definitely do want to make more friends on Twitter, on YouTube, Instagram, wherever. The next one is be more kind and joyful. I feel like I put this one down mainly because I don't want to be a negative presence in the booktube community. I don't want to be a negative person. I don't want to profit off of unnecessary drama. I don't want to perpetuate unnecessary drama, and I just want to be a more positive presence in this community. And I want to kind of, you know, make reading fun and enjoyable, and that's just kind of the person I want to be. So I feel like in order to be that, you kind of have to, you know, really put your mind to it and put that out there and stick to it. So that's definitely a big goal for me. The next one is get out of my comfort zone. Obviously, I feel like I've been talking about that this entire video. And the very last one is write more, which is obvious. I want to write more. I have a project, like I said, that I'm super, super excited about, and I love it. And I guess I can kind of talk a little bit about it. Basically, it's a fantasy YA novel, and it's about these 2 sisters who have grown up, you know, separated from each other. One has grown up in a convent, the other in a castle, and they come together for their parents' funeral, and things happen, and there's magic, and there is drama, and I love it, and I want to talk more about it, but I don't want to give a lot of stuff away. It's just basically just think sisters, magic, death, fun times. And I'm loving writing it. It's so much fun. So I definitely want to focus a lot on that this year. Alright, so I feel like I've talked more than enough for this video, and I hope you all enjoyed it. If you did, let me know in the comments down below. Also give me some of your 2020 goals, and if you have any suggestions or comments or whatever about my content, please let me know. I will not be offended or hurt or anything. I really want to know how to make my content better. So I feel like my viewers are the best people to help me with that. And if you enjoyed this video and if you like me, go ahead and follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and Goodreads, and I will see you all in my next video. Bye!